Boy, that one muffin I bought sure stuck the house a bit.
Yeah, you got to say for yourself.
Nothing. It's good. Wow. A federal judge rejected a $45.7 million settlement Thursday for 75 people who have filed sex abuse claims against the bankrupt Roman Catholic Diocese of Spokane, Washington. Scroll to the bottom. The Roman Catholic Church's sex abuse scandal has cost Boston Archdiocese at least $151 million since it erupted in 2002. Struggling to restore public confidence after it was exposed for moving abusive priests to new parishes instead of reporting them to authorities, the Archdiocese had to close more than 60 churches to raise money and was pressured to reveal its finances.
Starting to see a lot of cracks in the Catholic
Oh, you know.
faith.
Church leaders called the latest report the most comprehensive public financial account in the history of the Boston Church and said a growing budget deficit has put its programs and ministries at risk. The Archdiocese lost $8.3 million in its fiscal year to end June 2005 as spending rose and donations shrank. That compared with a year earlier loss of $2.5 million. Cardinal Sean O'Malley said he would cut costs to try to reverse that trend and hopes to balance the budget by 2008. Toledo, Ohio. Few people dared to say anything bad about priests in 1980 when Sister Margaret Ann Paul was found stabbed to death in a hospital chapel. Even when the hospital's chaplain emerged as the only suspect, witnesses were reluctant to implicate the priest. But the sex abuse scandal that has since swept through the Roman Catholic Church has changed the way people view clergy. Times are very different in many ways. Lucas County Prosecutor Julia Bates said the Reverend Gerald Robinson was convicted last week of murdering the nun 26 years after her death. Prosecutors reminded jurors of that in their final arguments, telling them it would have been difficult right after Paul's death to convince a jury that a priest was capable of murder. All the scandals that have occurred have certainly changed the climate, Chris Anderson, an assistant prosecutor, said after the verdict. People still hold priests in high reverence, but this may change things. Robinson, 68, was sentenced Thursday to a mandatory term of 15 years to life in prison for murdering Paul, 71, a day before Easter. Jurors needed just 6 hours last week to determine that he choked and stabbed her in what prosecutors called a rage killing. They say he grew angry with her because she was a dominating, strict figure. The two worked together at Mercy Hospital, where she supervised nurses before retiring to become the chapel caretaker. Robinson became a suspect within 2 weeks of the killing. Some hospital employees pointed the finger at him right away, but others were hesitant. Grace Jones, who testified at the trial that she saw Robinson leave the chapel with a duffel bag in hand, was hesitant to get involved in 1980. She told us that a black woman couldn't accuse a priest of doing anything wrong back then. Her account was a key moment because it placed the priest at the murder scene and contradicted his claim that he was in his room that morning. The nun's nephew, Lee Paul, said no one wanted to believe a quarter century ago that a man of God could do anything wrong. If this was 1980, people wouldn't be nearly as open to believing that a priest could do this. Some studies suggest that people no longer view priests as being holier than themselves or better human beings than themselves, says Jane Davison, a Purdue University sociologist who specializes in Catholicism. It's true that if you look back at the pre-Vatican II days, of the 1940s and 50s, Catholics did look up to priests. They occupied a higher status than lay people. Both priests and lay people understand this to be the case, Davidson said. The sex abuse scandal has had a profound effect. Clergy molestation cases first drew national attention in the mid-1980s with the case of an abusive priest in the Diocese of Lafayette, Louisiana. New claims came to light over the next decade or so, but the scandal broke wide open in January of '02 with the case of a predator priest in the Archdiocese